My guest today is Lisa Moore, and her slogan, or the way her strapline, I don't know what you would call it really, Lisa, is fit for more, fit for everything. And I think that really sums up my knowledge of you, because you've got so many different things that you do, and I hadn't realized quite how many different things that you undertook. And I met you because I was going to give a talk at your Inspired Talk in Brighton. And I was so looking forward to coming down to Brighton and having that, being able to give that talk there. And then we went into lockdown and we did it online instead. But it was delightful, and I thank you so much for having me as a guest. I think it's just lovely that you run these talks as well. I'm really quite hacked off. I couldn't do it for real on a stage, but we have to go with the flow. So I'm going to hand over, because I think you are so inspirational. You know, women over 40, they're the ones, they kind of get stuck. They've got to that stage in their life, and what do we do? I mean, what happens when you get to 40? Kind of lose yourself or something. But so introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about you.
Okay, so my name is Lisa Moore, and my business is Fit for More, play on words. Fit for more, fit for everything. And my ethos really is that, health has to underpin everything that we do. So I wear lots of hats, as you've already implied. So I'm a personal trainer, I'm a health and wellbeing coach, I'm a craniosacral therapist, I run a networking club, I run Inspiring Talk Brighton, and I present on the radio. So lots and lots and lots of things. But talking about women in their 40s, because predominantly that's who I work with. I work with two busy women in their 40s that are feeling overwhelmed, overstretched, sort of have that feeling inside them that there's more to life, but they're not quite sure how to get it. They feel a bit trapped with perhaps in their relationships or in their career, their families and things like that. And interestingly, we pick on that 40 number because on my 40th year, I trained and ran the London Marathon.
Wow.
Yeah, I had two small children. They were aged 2 and 5 at the time. I was running Fit for More. I was married, but I was in a very unhappy relationship. And I decided for some reason that for my 40th birthday, I was going to celebrate and run the London Marathon. And interestingly, it was the hardest thing I've ever done, but probably one of the best things I've ever done, because I think what it allowed me to do was finally to find me. And it made me see the bravery and the courage that I had inside me, because when you're training for a marathon, there's a lot of miles that you run. There's a lot of time that you spend in your head. But for me, it was running down the mall at the end. You can call it running, but it was shuffling, I suppose, and getting over the finish line. And I was expecting this feeling of euphoria, this, oh, haven't I done amazingly? It didn't come.
Oh.
It was like silence. And it was it hit me, because I came over the finish line and they gave you your medal. They take your tag off your feet. And I felt like there was nobody there. Empty. I felt empty. I just felt completely empty. And it was at that moment I realized that I needed to be brave enough to do something and put my needs first.
Right.
So actually that led me to leaving my marriage, walking out with my two small children. I had nothing. I had no money. Not really had a job. I had Fit for More, but it was only a very small business. And I suppose, my 40s was the start of my journey, and I'm about to be 50 next year. For the last 10 years in my 40s, I've learned a hell of a lot. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, and I wonder if it is because as women, you say that was you had two small children and you were in a marriage, and I wonder, I think I noticed so much. I did for myself, and I do with other women. You become somebody's wife, someone's mother, but there's somehow, and you feel like you have to put the children first, and to a degree they demand that. But there's something about, where am I in all of this?
Yeah.
Where am I? Where do I count? Who am I? And there is that loss of identity somewhere, because you are just, I felt like I was an appendage of, you know, an extension of my kids, an extension of my husband at that time. And it was, yeah, but where am I? Where do I fit in it? And I really felt that way. So,
and I think for me as well, I'd made the decision to leave my corporate job to have my first daughter, and then I was going to go back to that corporate world, but you know, for some reason or other, the company had restructured, and it just didn't work out. And
yeah,
so it was, you know, in some ways it was great because I had the opportunity to set up my own business, to retrain and do all of those things. But you do suddenly lose that identity of who are you? You know, I was in a, you know, good career, working for an IT company as an account manager, you know, working my way up. And then suddenly you are, what are you? You're your mum, which is fabulous. Being a mum is amazing, but your mum, your wife, your cook, cleaner, tidier upper. And I suppose my business, I call it business, you know, but it wasn't. It was just a way of earning a bit of money, to be honest, and doing something that I quite enjoyed doing. I never really felt like I was a business person, but that has come over the last sort of 10 years of realizing that actually I am still that person I was before I had kids, and I can build that up, but it takes, you know, I think there was two things that I struggled with. One, it was worrying about what other people thought about me, and feeling like a fraud. So, you know, it classic imposter syndrome.
Yeah. Yes. And so when that came to you, how did it come to you? What was it that the steps you took?
Well, I think crossing that marathon finishing line was the trigger to recognize that actually I am braver than I think, and I'm capable of more than I think, because running 26.2 miles is hard work.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. And then I was really lucky because my mum and dad took me in. So they took me and the girls in, and we lived with them for 18 months, which was amazing. But then it was just really finding other people that believed in me, that helped, that, you know, they kept me going, kept me pushing. And it was a self-development. It was reading books, it was watching videos, it was listening to podcasts, it was and actually I suppose the big change for me was joining Toastmasters,
Right.
where you learn how to become a public speaker. That again was sort of pivotal, because it gave me that voice. It allowed me to share who I was. But that took time as well, because I remember when I first started talking on stage and doing speeches and things, I was trying to be somebody else. I had this image of what I should be. And the ones where I tried to be somebody else just didn't work. No. The ones where I was completely me and I just spoke how I speak, using my words, and was open and, you know, honest, those were the ones that, you know, I got lots of feedback from, and positive, and that sort of led me down the route of Inspiring Talks Brighton. And so I appeared like you did as a speaker, but we were on, you know, we were live then. And that then led me to taking over Inspiring Talks Brighton a couple of years ago. So it's amazing what happens when you take that step outside of your comfort zone and you have that courage to put your needs first. Yeah. As women, I don't think we do that. We put everybody else's needs above it, and we sort of bury ourselves down here. And it's not selfish. It's not selfish, and we shouldn't feel guilty about putting our needs at the top of the list. I'm not saying all the time, but more than we do.
Well, I'm going to say that we always have to. Because if we aren't in a place that we don't feel in a good place ourselves, whether it's our health, our well-being, our mood, if we don't do that for ourselves, we are no good for anybody else. Yeah. And I often use that analogy of metaphor of the safety instructions on a plane. You have to put the oxygen mask on yourself, because without that you cannot help anybody else. And I it's such a very kind of I think it's very graphic, but it's so true. And I've had that conversation so many times with clients. Tell me who's the most important person in your life, and they'll go through the list, and it will even include, I don't know, include the dog, the cat, next door neighbor, the window cleaner, imagine anybody. Well, where are you? Well, no, I don't. And that is that. It's, as you say, it's not selfish, it's self-care.
It is self-care. And that's where the whole health thing comes in as well. That, as I said right at the very beginning of this, health underpins everything. If you haven't got your health, you haven't got anything. You can't look after your children or your elderly mother or your husband. You can't walk the dog if you're struggling with bad health. And so it's really important to think about that. And it was funny, I was listening to, I was in a networking meeting the other night, and this lovely lady, we were talking about health and fitness and exercise and stuff, and she said, oh, well, yes, I know that I should be doing it, but just work gets in the way. And I hear that, I'm sure you do, you hear it so many times. Other things get in the way, I'm too busy, I haven't got the time, got to take the kids to school, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. And health doesn't have to be an hour in the gym every single day. It's much simpler than that. But we make it so complicated. Because if we make it complicated, then we don't do it.
And then what happens is, why are we putting everything, why do we put things in the way? Because that's what we're doing. We're filling our time up so that we don't have to do that, stop and think. As you said, I really picked up on the fact that when you were training for the marathon, you were on your own. You were in your own thoughts. And that, I think that was really interesting, because you started understanding more about yourself. And I see so many people filling their lives up with stuff. And I can be guilty of it myself at times, because it's scary to be with ourselves. I'm not talking about being on our own. I'm not talking, I'm not talking about not being with friends or anything. I'm talking about being with ourselves, with our thoughts, with our feelings, all of that. It can be very scary. And a number of people that do it.
It's really scary. It's really scary. And I suppose that goes back into when I was talking about public speaking. The speech that I very first did at Inspiring Talks was my personal story. I bared my soul on stage, and it was really scary, because you then worry about what people are going to think about you. But it's that first step to really understanding who you are. You have to take personal responsibility for your thoughts, your reactions. When you react to somebody, it's very easy to blame. And I'm now 10 years down the line from leaving a marriage, and a lot's changed since then. And I can now look back and go, it wasn't all his fault. Of course it wasn't. I have to take personal responsibility as well for my actions in that relationship. Yes, it was a tricky relationship, and he had certain personality traits that were hard to deal with, but you can't blame somebody else. You have to take that responsibility yourself. And I think that's one of the biggest lessons I've learned over the last 10 years, is that when you really truly learn who you are, then you can do so much more.
Yes, and I think that is, thank you for sharing that you've taken that responsibility, because I think I had to do the same. I was married twice. And there was something, it's easy to blame the other person. And it's really tough when you have to take that responsibility, but our part in it, because we enabled that behavior, or we allowed it, or I'm not saying anyone deserves to be treated badly, When you get, well, you made me do that. That's not what I'm talking about, because I think too often someone can blame the other. You made me angry, you made me lash out, you made me whatever. No, that is, again, that's the blame game.
It's a choice, isn't it?
It's a choice. Yeah,
you may react in that way initially because we're only human, and if somebody says something to you that triggers you, that you go,
yeah.
But what we all have is the ability to go, okay, my reaction is angry. How else can I look at this?
Yeah.
And, because we've all been in that situation, haven't we, where it just escalates and escalates. Just dealing with teenagers or children. It to be able to be the bigger person, to take that deep breath and step back, it makes life so much easier.
Yeah.
It's that I remember my mum saying to me about children, she said, is choose your battles wisely. And it's really good advice.
Very true, because they do test us, don't they? But then they're going through difficult transitions in their lives. So a lot of them just out of their control. And I think parents get very frustrated about the fact that of their responses. And then sense of failure, that's another part, isn't it? I failed because they behave in this way. And I think we carry a huge bundle of guilt as mums.
We do, absolutely we do. Yeah, and that's a really big part of it. That whole being able to let go of guilt, because guilt doesn't serve us in any way. You can, we can only do the best that we can in the time that we have. Yeah. And what you don't know, you don't know. But what we need to be able to do is to learn. So if something did go wrong or badly, is to be able to have that self, I can't think of the word, but to be able to look within and to recognize, as we've already said, our part in that. And how can you look at it differently next time? How could you react differently? Like walking in at the weekend into my kitchen, and the girls have been cooking in the kitchen, and not looking at the sink and going, oh, they've made such a mess because I tidied it up beforehand, but saying, wow, look what you've cooked. Oh, that's amazing. Can I have one? Completely different attitude and a completely different feeling to it if I'd have come in and just got stroppy with them for making a mess.
Yeah. And that's a bit about us, isn't it? Look at the mess I've just cleared up. I've made it tidy, you've done this, and that's all about us, whereas you're not acknowledging the amazing thing that they did. I think it is sometimes taking it away from the other, but taking it away from us and acknowledging the good. I think that's it. We can easily get triggered and, oh God, now I've got to clear up. So what do most of the women that you work with, what are their biggest kind of issues? What do they come to you about the most?
Well, I think the starting point is normally about their body and how their body is feeling. It's that they've lost that confidence in who they are and how they look and what they want. So quite often it tends to be around the weight side of things. Okay. But it never really is about the weight side of things. It's about feeling stuck, and it's about the loss of identity. But it's like going to the doctor. You talk about a symptom, but actually the symptom quite often isn't, the cause is something very different.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. So, and I think that, it's symptomatic, because as we get older, our bodies change and our body shape changes. So there is something about that. And I wonder whether as women, we feel that we're trying to compete with younger women in the world.
Yeah, possibly. Well, I think it's more that the media is telling us that as women, we have to be beautiful all the time. Yeah. You even pick up a magazine and they'll be fabulous at 50, or superb at 60 and stunning at 70. And it's like, so why do we have to be stunning and fabulous, and can't we just be us? Because you don't see magazines really with men at the same stages. You know, that there seems to be this thing that women should always be beautiful. We are beautiful. We don't need necessarily to. We see our true beauty by looking in our own eyes and seeing. And one of the things that I do often with my clients when they're lacking in that confidence in themselves is I do this I am brilliant list, which they hate. But it's just a list of looking at all the things that you've ever achieved. So from being able to do your grade 1 piano, to swimming 20 meters in the swimming pool, to getting a master's degree, to birthing 3 children, buying a house, renovating a house, you know, all of these tiny little things. Once you start the list, suddenly you start remembering all these things. And then as you live your life, you know, like me doing my first talk on stage, that goes on the I am brilliantly. So when you're not feeling great, you're not feeling confident, you can look at that list and go, whoa, actually, I ran the London Marathon and crossed that finishing line. You know, recognizing how brilliant you are. It's not about what's on the outside, it's what comes on the inside.
Yes. And I think I was thinking about that when you were talking, because something I noticed such a lot is on social media, a woman will put an image of themselves on and everyone say, oh, you look so beautiful. And it's always about looks.
Yeah.
And if a guy puts up an image of himself, you don't talk about that. You don't talk about, God, you look gorgeous. Well,
no.
I love your hairstyle. You don't, I love what you're wearing. You don't say that to a man. So what is it about us women that we feel, well, one, we have to admire all that. And that is one of the things that we have been programmed to appreciate. And then we're looking for that. I mean, it's pretty shallow, but I think I'd encourage listeners to actually look. When you see those pictures, what is it? When you see a girlfriend, what is it that you will say to them? You will pick up on that image of them. Oh, wow, you've lost weight. You look good in that. And like, what is it? Because we're programmed into it, aren't we?
Yeah. But the thing is, what's really interesting is that they might get all those comments saying, you look good, you look amazing, you look fantastic. But that person is probably sitting there not feeling like that. And that's how I help women, definitely, is to make them feel so that they don't need that external acknowledgement. They feel they love who they are. They love who they are. They feel comfortable who they are. They feel confident who they are and how they are and how they feel. They know the things that light them up. They know the things that they're good at. And so life becomes easier. So you're not constantly striving to fill your life with the too many things. Because I think sometimes we do fill our lives with lots of things to do. Because as you said earlier, we don't want to see ourselves as we really feel. And that again was what the marathon gave me. It gave me that time, that insight to recognize how unhappy I really, really was. You know, had I not done that, I think I'd probably have carried on and carried on and carried on. But with miles of running in the woods and fields and things, you haven't got anything else to focus on. And I didn't used to run with music either, so it was
It's quite revealing, isn't it? And I would encourage anybody to just look at themselves and not just their outer shell, not that. What is that fact that you don't like the look of yourself or the way you appear? That's just a symptom, as you say. So what else is going on? Because why do you feel that you don't measure up? Why do you feel those kind of thoughts, that lacking that confidence.
Yeah. And we we put words into our heads about, we're having a conversation with somebody, and I had this with a lady I was coaching yesterday, and she was saying, oh well, they're going to think this about me, and they're going to think that about me, and they won't like this. And I was like, how do you know that? Oh well, I just do. It's like, but you don't. You can never know. Even you and I talking here now, we will never know what other people are thinking about the conversation that we're having. Some people love it. Some people might go, oh, shut up. You don't know.
Exactly.
So, and the more you worry about and you make up these stories, it holds you back from doing it, because, or they won't like me, or they'll think I'm stupid, or they'll think I'm this and think I'm that. It's like, do you know what? If they're probably thinking the same thing about you and worrying about what you're thinking about them. So
yeah, and I think that there is. I read something a while back at it, and I thought that was just so true. A third of the people will like us. The third of the people won't like us, maybe hate us, whatever. And a third of the people just don't give a damn either way. So why do we focus on those? We can't make anybody like us or whatever. So why do we try to be what we think others want us to be, when it's not going to make an iota of difference?
And also, do you want to live a life? And I know this is what I was doing in my marriage, was I was living as the person that I believed I needed to be in that marriage. So I wasn't being me. I wasn't being true to myself, and I wasn't happy. So you need to know who you are and trust that who you are is enough. And the people that will love you and admire you, maybe admire is the wrong word, the people that resonate with who you are will come to you, and those that don't, you don't need them. You'll find your own tribe.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What is one thing you could suggest to whoever's listening that they could take away and maybe start doing now, or start that journey?
I think, as we've been talking all the way through this, it's allowing your needs to come up that priority list. Put your needs first. So to, just spend a little bit of time thinking about, what is it that you need right now? What is it that you need right now? And making the decision and the choice that that's what you're going to do. It could be something as simple as, I'm not going to sit and watch the program that my husband wants to watch tonight. I'm going to go up and read a book and have a hot bath. It sounds like a really tiny, silly little thing, but rather than people pleasing, or just if you want to cook the meal for the family, rather than cooking 3 or 4 different meals, which I know a lot of women do, cook what you want to cook for you, and don't feel guilty about it. Because they have to be guilty about it.
I like that. I think it's lovely. Yeah, wonderful. It's been so lovely to talk to you, Lisa, and learn more about who you work with and what you do. As I said, you wear so many hats, but actually what I'm taking away from this is that you work with women holistically.
Yeah.
So it's not just about being fit and healthy, and it's about encouraging encouraging them to be the person they are, to accept themselves. And when you were talking about Toastmasters earlier, I thought, yes, I used to belong to Toastmasters. I used to go. For anyone who doesn't know, it's a worldwide speaking organization, and that really encouraged my confidence, because I can remember getting up in front of those people at the beginning. It was like, oh my goodness. And I think the ethos of that is that they encourage, and you don't get criticism, you get encouragement, and that builds our confidence.
It does.
So yeah, I think it's great. So Lisa, how can people get in touch with you? One simple way, because all your details will be in the show notes, but not everybody is going to be reading those right now. who might be listening to us talking. So what is one easy way to get in touch with you?
The easiest way is probably through Facebook, and just search for Lisa Moore, and Moore, or Fit for More, but Lisa Moore on Facebook. You'll find me. Send me a message if you want to know more, get in touch. That's probably the best place.
Great. Thank you so much, Lisa. I've so enjoyed today, and I hope the listeners have too. Yeah, it's been an absolute delight.
It's been lovely. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.